I'd now like to have the report of the CSSA, President Mia Kagianas. Mia?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the Cal State University's student body. I'd first like to take a moment to thank the incredible brave first responders who have worked tirelessly over the past week at the mass shooting in Thousand Oaks and at wildfires across our state. Our students and campus families will be forever affected by these tragedies, and they will need holistic support long after the last spark has extinguished. I want to recognize and thank the campus efforts to raise money, collect food and clothes, and provide other aid to those affected by these events, and led by our empathetic faculty, staff, administrators, alumni, and students. Just this past weekend, the CSU's elected student leaders gathered in San Luis Obispo for our monthly plenary meeting where we primarily discussed comprehensive student success. At the core of that conversation, though, was teamwork and compassion. We discussed campus safety, strengthening long-term student advocacy efforts, civic engagement, and the graduation initiative. Our board celebrated statewide wins in the Secretary of State's Ballot Bowl voter registration competition. 7 of our CSU campuses made it in the top 10 for most students registered before Election Day. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo won the statewide Ballot Bowl by registering 3,178 students to vote. CSU Fullerton came in second by registering 2,627 students to vote, and CSU Channel Islands won for highest percentage of student population to register. Our student body and its leaders are among the most civically engaged in the state and are ready to advocate for our collective needs. In September, my fellow executive officers and I traveled to Washington, D.C. to share the 3 key priorities outlined in our policy agenda this year, which address the well-being and safety of our students, success, access and affordability, and holistic academic success. We discussed the great needs of CSU students with education advocates such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, members of Congress, and other representatives in order to share our needs more widely. Additionally, we are working towards creating a national organization of statewide student leaders by partnering with institutions such as State University of New York Student Association. And although these partnerships amplify our students' voices in the CSU, I can say with candor that the CSU's courage stands apart from the rest. We appreciate your courage in setting the pace for the rest of higher education institutions, not only in California, but in the nation, by boldly supporting our students' basic needs. While the need on our campuses and in our institution are so great that even one fully funded, ambitious budget request still doesn't meet all of our needs, we know that every dollar is important, particularly with respect to basic needs. The procurement of wholesome groceries, reliable shelter, and peace of mind amidst the stress and pressure of being a modern college student loom over our institution as well as many others, no matter how rich the resources may be. However, not all institutions have the courage to take responsibility for the holistic success of their students like all of you will today. By hearing CSSA and approving the request of $15 million for basic needs resources, you will be strengthening the CSU's values and commitment to students. Last night, I tried to envision what our conversation in this boardroom will look like 6 months from now. Whether we're successful in earning a fully funded budget in the coming months or not, I hope we congratulate each other on sticking to these values and acting with courage. Ultimately, I hope that we in the CSU achieve the best case scenario and receive a full investment from the state of California. The proposed budget is lofty, with a lot of potential value added to our universities. And each of the 15 units that I'm taking currently as part of my full course load at Sacramento State this semester have a direct application to the boldness of the budget request you will consider approving today. My entrepreneurship professor would give this board an A for calculated risk-taking and strategic investment. My supply chain logistics professor would commend you for optimizing current resources to drive outputs in consideration of a lean system. My management information systems professor would advise you to continue stewarding clean data and updating your network security, which is not as related, but still important. My history of rock and roll professor would remind you that many catalysts to societal change and revolutionary art stems from courage during challenging times. My conflict management negotiation professor, on the other hand, would give you a couple tips. I'm really taking all these classes. These are really my courseload, I promise you. I will show you my transcripts. Firstly, to manage this unpaved road of a new budget cycle with a new governor, we need to focus on interests, not positions. We can agree that in this room right now, there are more shared interests than there are competing interests. Let us leverage our shared and compatible interests to work towards solutions that align with our values and our current and future needs. Let us not focus on what each of us want, but rather why we want it for our system. Again, focus on interests, not positions. Secondly, to be successful in the next few months, we need to develop our BATNA, or our best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, it's offering a second best case scenario. Yesterday, there was an incredible energy around aiming high and waiting for the legislature to bring us down, laying out all the chips and seeing which ones they pick up in the future. I will be meeting with the Chancellor's Office staff in the coming weeks to discuss the potential outcomes that may occur if the election promises, along with their invoices, do not deliver when we need them to. We are thankful to have the student voice on the Chancellor's Revenue Opportunities Task Force that looks at long-term solutions to secure funding for our institution. But unfortunately, those solutions won't be delivered in this year of need. I must say, we know that the cost will likely fall on students if investment does not come from the state. We know that student tuition is the first BATNA we turn to because it seems to be the only one we have. I want all of you to consider your BATNAs, and sometimes our worst case scenarios articulate our values and integrity just as clearly as our best case scenarios. As the smoke hangs heavily over all of us in California, I am reminded of how compassionate our institution is, not only with where it puts its dollar, but with how hard its heart beats when all pieces of the elephant are healthy and united. Our students are ready to unite with all of you to secure a healthy, comprehensive, and value-based budget. Thank you, Chair Day. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mia. And I can assure you that your communications professor would give you an A+.